The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah! Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com
We were on a break!
with Ambar Garcia, Brian Broaddus, Nick Harris, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Friday, September 13th, 2024, Season 20, Episode number 29. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, presented by LG. LG is the world's #1 OLED TV brand for 11 years and counting. See why at lg.com/OLED Evo.
I always have trouble with this chair. I feel like everyone sees me every day just pull up this chair. And
I was the same way. I was the same
like
way.
300 pounds, you know,
Yeah, I was
lunging.
I was
It's
struggling there too.
Yeah, it's work. I always feel like I'm the little kid in the big person's chair because it's so tall.
It's funny you
slide
say
it up.
that because yesterday when I was walking in here, I saw your feet dangling there in the air, and I almost made a comment. I'm like, no, let me just be nice, but I laughed inside.
yeah.
But yes,
You know,
it is funny.
By the end of the show, my feet are asleep. Yeah, it's the whole thing. It's uncomfortable. I don't know why we decided this high table. Thank you, Chris Beam, and the producer, and Scott Purcell, and
That
all
was
the people
all
that
you.
were part of that decision. Y'all should have talked us into something smaller. Anyway,
I don't know.
welcome
My
to
feet
the
are
show.
on the ground right now. I think.
Let me verify.
All right, Brian.
Oh,
Offensive lineman over here.
Right, I was about to say, yeah, offensive lineman. All right, let's talk a little football. We got a lot to do today. We got to talk about this upcoming game, Cowboys versus Saints. We'll start first with injury updates. There are three guys that remain on the Cowboys injury list as non-participants in practice. That's Jake Ferguson, Marshawn Nealon, John Stevens Jr. What are we hearing as far as the likelihood that they play?
Well, Marshawn Nealon upgraded to limited yesterday with the calf injury, so there looks to be a little bit more optimism that Nealon will be able to go on Sunday. But I think when you look at the tight end situation, I think fans should start preparing for Jake Ferguson and John Stevens to not play against the Saints on Sunday. So you're looking at Luke Schoonmaker to start at the tight end position. You're also looking at Brevin Spann-Ford, potentially an elevation for practice squad member Princeton Fant. And then, like we mentioned earlier in the week, Hunter Lipke probably with some increased opportunities at the tight end position, maybe in some pass catching situations. But nevertheless, those are the three guys to keep an eye on moving forward. There was a couple of guys that rested on Wednesday that were upgraded to full on Thursday, but really those are the three guys we're looking at.
When you guys looked at Princeton Fant during camp, did you consider him to be more proficient as a blocker or as a pass catcher?
For me, it was as a blocker, and they worked him into some very Lipke-like roles in training camp and in the preseason, lining up at fullback and kind of being a downhill guy, but also somebody that can kind of squeak out of the backfield and get some of those pass-catching opportunities. He's an athletic guy. He's a powerful guy. They call him Bull in the tight end room, and you understand why. He's like 6'1", 235, 240 pounds.
Yeah, he's a fire hydrant.
Exactly. He's just a bowling ball, and he is not a guy you want to meet at the point of attack. So it's not going to be a significant drop-off when it comes from a blocking perspective, but I think if Dak is trying to work in the tight ends in the passing game, I think that's where you see a really big drop-off by not having Jake Ferguson and or John Stevens Jr. in this game.
Yeah, the thing with Fant, man, I just remember him in training camp. The one read that in the Rams game that Trey Lance really missed, that where they ran the flat and then the up with the back. You know, they had Fant. You know, they had the space. They had everything they needed. All he had to do was throw the ball that direction or look in that direction. He probably would have had a touchdown. But yeah, there was a thought too about depending and I don't know, maybe not out of the woods yet on Nealon, and think about, could you get the two elevations? Mm-hmm. You know, the elevation from last week was the linebacker.
Nick Vigil.
Nick Vigil was the linebacker. So you only have two of these per game. So you got to be careful. But is this one of those games where you have to think about, well, if Nealon, say, it doesn't get worked out, is this where we see Carl Lawson?
Yeah.
You know, so, or is this going to be about Wheat?
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys feel about these elevation things? I mean, with the running backs and stuff like that, I mean, I'm kind of looking at them every week because you only get three before you have to before you have to figure out if you're going to put him on the. And so people are like, well, would this be a good week to see Cook? And I'm like, I don't see them using the running back elevation until they absolutely think about, okay, the guys we're playing with right now are okay, we're probably not going to be, we're not good enough with this. Let's see about Cook, but you got to be kind of careful with these. I mean, when you use them, how you use them. Did you mean to, did you have to use that one? Is it, because once you use that third one, once you get to that third elevation, these guys, they're either going to be on the roster or gone.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful about that.
I get the impression that Cook is an insurance policy to some degree, or at least let's see what happens with these other backs before we do anything with him. Is that kind of the impression you guys are getting?
Is he the break glass in case of emergency guy?
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy did talk about earlier in the week. He was asked
he talked about him like in a positive way. Yeah.
And he was like, we're going to get him a really good week of practice next week. And so that leads me to believe that I think they will maybe start looking at elevations with Cook going into the next week against the Ravens or the following week against the Giants. But he's loved his approach so far.
Yeah.
He loves the veteran presence. He says he fits in that room really well. And we've seen him working one-on-one with running backs coach Jeff Blasco every time we've been out there for practice.
So you could see a scenario where he works into the mix of these backs, not necessarily replace one, but he's just another guy that they can throw out there with these guys.
How do you get him active?
And that's the thing that Brian brings up a good point is how do you get those three elevations to a certain point to where you're comfortable putting him on the roster by the end of those three elevations. And I think that's
who comes off the roster if he goes on the roster.
Exactly. And maybe that's a situation where it's not hoping for an injured guy, but I mean by the nature of the season and how things go, typically about 6 weeks in, there's going to be one or two guys that you have to put on IR, and maybe it's a situation where Cook is one of those guys waiting. Because I every time that a practice squad is built out, there is a top one or two guys that'd be like, okay, if and when an injury happens, those are going to be our two guys to activate. Last year was Brock Hoffman, and it happened a lot earlier than I think a lot of people expected, but he got those three elevations and he was immediately put on the roster. There was a couple of other guys in the same sense last year, like once CJ Goodwin went down, Leighton Vander Esch went down, it just made sense to elevate a couple of guys to the roster. So I would assume that Nick Vigil and Dalvin Cook are probably one of those top two guys that would be roster candidates at the end of the day.
Yeah, you get to deal with Vigil. I mean, he was the special teams, and then what happened when Kendricks went out? Mm-hmm. Nick Vigil went into the game. It wasn't Leofau or it was.
It surprised me.
He played a lot.
It did me too, and maybe it's. And I know they trust Leofau. I know that, but it just seemed odd that all of a sudden a practice squad elevation who you think is a special teams player, now he's playing
green dot.
Yeah, he's the guy on the field trying to get you out of the game and stuff. So I think you have to be careful. I wonder if this, and I don't mean to bring up so much about practice squad, but the running back situation, do you think they're trying to figure out what they have in Cook before the trade deadline? That they're going to look at all these guys and think, okay, we're good enough.
What's the deadline again?
What is it? I always mess this up. And
it's been
like
moved this year,
8, right?
It's been moved this year specifically.
8, 9.
I think it is.
I knew I was going to look this up before I even said this, and then I knew
November 5th at 4 p.m. Eastern. So
November,
it's about a week later than usual.
That's
this
about
year.
9. That's about week 9 or so, week 8. 9.
So wow, I mean, I think. Do you think you'd want to know what's going on with your running back situation before then? Right?
Well, here's the question.
By then, I would assume you already kind of know what's happening. I mean, if everyone's healthy and stays healthy, you can really evaluate, who are you going to put in or who's going to be best. But I would assume by that time, you can kind of know already what you do have in Cook.
Yeah,
it's after week 9, so you're halfway through the season at that point.
And your point, Brian, is if you're looking at it from that standpoint, you're thinking they're like, okay, we want to make a decision on do we have the right guy here? And if we don't, if we've got a really good team and all we need is a running back, or the running game is just falling off a cliff, kind of like what happened when they went out and got Amari, they say, let's just go get somebody, and we'll give up some draft capital to do it.
I think to me, I'd want to know about this earlier. I wouldn't wait till November if it was me. And that's what I'm asking is if the Cowboys, if it turns into, okay, we kind of understand what we have in Dowdle. We understand what we have in Zeke. By the way, you're going to need Zeke in this game. If the Saints, if the Saints,
one of the questions I got on
if
here.
the Saints are going to blitz you as much as they blitz Carolina, you're going to need pickup guy. But the thing about I wonder is that do you figure this thing out early, like they did with Amari Cooper? You know, you got to a point where they were like 3-3, and it's like, we can't do this anymore.
But I'll tell you this, Brian, I'm a big believer in the fact that
I don't think they're going to do anything.
I agree. I think that in today's NFL, you've seen teams be very successful with a more potent passing game and runners, a group of runners that can just be sufficient, that can pick up the blitz, that can give you a little bit of spell when you need it, that can run the ball when they need to, where if you're committed to it, they won't just be shut down, but they'll get you 3 to 4 yards of carry, and you'll make that work. And I think between the running backs they have on this team, I think that will be sufficient for what they need. There will be bigger problems than their ability to run the ball if they're having problems.
Yeah. I like you say, the thing with Vaughn, I know it's small sample week one, special team stuff wasn't a disaster with him playing on especially. Matter of fact, that one of the key blocks on the punt return was his first block. So, you know, all that, you're like, well, he's too short to play. You know, guys like me saying, oh, he's too short, you can't play him on, you know, well, okay, they're doing things with him. So you wonder, but you're right, the attrition, the injuries, I just don't know if they're going to put 4 backs on a roster. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, where do the carries come from in that sense?
Yeah.
You also have Lipke factored in as well.
Sure.
There are several guys who are still listed on the New Orleans injury report. I'm going to throw these names out there, and I want you guys to tell me
Lattimore's the one you don't. Lattimore's the one you're. I think you're the most concerned about.
Yes,
and maybe the guard too.
But here's my question. Yeah. My question is, if you were the one making the calls for the Cowboys, which of these players would make you change your game plan if they're there versus not there? Lattimore, Matthew, Lucas Patrick, that's the guard. Kalen Saunders, DeMarco Jackson.
Yeah.
Which of those guys would make you change up your game plan, or you feel like there's a greater opportunity for the team if they're not playing and you can really take advantage of something?
Yeah, I think I'm with Brian here as far as Lattimore goes, just because I think it's going to open up a lot of things on the outside. I feel comfortable with what CD, Cooks, and or Turpin can do from the slot. I think there's going to be some opportunities in the quick game in the slot across the middle of the field. But if that can push outside the numbers as well, and you have a guy who's filling in for Lattimore, I think that's going to open up a lot of opportunities to be able to stretch the field and get downfield. But I think another injury that popped up yesterday, Taliese Fuaga, the starting back. Left tackle, a back injury. He was downgraded to a did not participate. So if he cannot go, Lucas Patrick cannot go, and that's the entire left side of their offensive line that's going to be dealing with reserves.
Yeah, there you go. That was the one that kind of got my attention yesterday. When he went on with the back, I'm thinking, oh, if that's something, we'll see how they will adjust to that if he in fact doesn't go. You mentioned the whole left side of their offensive line would be now in a bind, very similar to what you had last week with the Browns and the trouble they had. I think with Lattimore is that I particularly do not want CeeDee Lamb running routes against him, and I say
against Lattimore?
Against Lattimore. And to me, Taylor, who plays in the slot, Alontae Taylor, who plays in the slot, is a guy that gets picked on a lot.
Younger guy.
Yeah. He had a bunch of sacks. He might be an edge for all I know. I mean, the guy had 3 sacks in the game the other day. But the thing that he gets picked on a lot. And teams have success throwing the ball in it. But the thing with Marshawn Lattimore, and I mentioned that they played against him in 2021, and he limited against Lamb, but he had an interception, and Lamb only had 1 catch. So if you're taking him out of the equation, McKistri's a rookie who we all liked on the draft show from Alabama. They've got some guys that are good, but not the level what you were facing last week.
Yeah.
Last week was no separation, really not much going on. You did a nice job in the first half. But this group might be a lot different if Lattimore is not playing in this football game.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take our first break. We will come back, and Amber's got a little bit of a game for us. We'll see how she's got her shades on.
Poker face.
But
we'll see if you guys are up for it.
We got a fun little game coming up, and then in the final segment we'll do some questions just about this matchup, get you guys ready, and of course we have our picks. We'll do that when we come right back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
Don't put off getting your oil change, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a pepper thing.
Life doesn't stop when the economy is uncertain. The market might not care you have a wedding to plan or a kid to put through school. And inflation doesn't know you've got a family to feed. But Bank of America does, and is here to help. With digital tools to help you save and local experts nearby, you can keep life moving forward the way you need it to. Bank of America. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC, equal credit opportunity lender.
Back to the break.
LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game, but don't take our word for it. Digital Trends says that LG OLED G4 has the best picture quality they've ever seen. See it for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo. I need all the time I gotta get from this segment. I need my time in this segment.
Welcome back.
Hey, they do those reads like that sometimes. Oh no, those are the disclaimers.
Yeah, they are. Welcome back,
still,
second segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the
Sure,
Star.
they're real happy with us right now.
This segment is brought to you by LG. I'm sorry, by Blockchain.
Yeah.
There we go. We gave LG some love.
And
hey, we give LG love throughout the show from beginning to end.
We do.
And Amber has a game that's brought to you by Yeti.
Yes.
Right? All right.
Yeah,
so introduce your game.
Let's go. We got a lot of sponsors.
There's a lot
Our
going
sales
on.
team love it. Great job, didn't they?
I love me some Yeti.
So for this game, yeah, we got it right here.
Love me some Yeti.
Yeah, there we go.
Derek has it there. So for this game, because Kendricks and Brandon Cooks, they got out of the game because of dehydration.
Mm-hmm.
The theme in Yeti keeps you very hydrated with
like
cold water
this,
or
yeah.
hot, depending your preference and what you're drinking. But this game is called Truth or Hydrate.
Okay.
Presented by Yeti.
Okay.
So you only get 3 chances where you can decide not to answer and take a drink.
Guess what's in this glass. We're not going to tell you what's in this glass,
I mean,
but
it's clear. It's clear. All right.
We're soon to have a sponsor, though, with it.
So choose
We love
wisely.
sponsors. We love sponsors.
Choose wisely when you decide to drink and not answer.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go. What's the most embarrassing thing you've ever done in front of someone from football personnel?
Oh,
the Jones, any coaches or players? Tin, 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 tin.
My natural sense is whenever I have an embarrassing moment, I just try to wipe it from my brain and pretend it never existed. So this is tough to like recall, but I know I've had at least 1 or 2. I know I had one at training camp that was specifically bad. And I
Does it have to be a Cowboys player or coach?
Who do you have? Or what?
Ownership? No, Tom Brady.
Okay.
All right, so this was the year that the Cowboys went to Tampa.
I know the story.
To play to play the Bucks in the playoffs, and Nick, it was me and Nick and Patrick, I think. I can't remember who else was with us. Maybe one other person. We're walking along, And I'm telling them and trying to show them this video that we got for after the game, the social team came up with. That's basically this meme from what's that movie where the pirates take over the ship and they like, I'm your captain now.
Phillips?
Captain Phillips.
Yeah.
I'm your captain now.
Captain Morgan.
And we're like, yeah,
that was embarrassing.
As soon as we win this game, we're gonna do this video and it's gonna have like Tom Brady in it. And literally we look up and immediately as I say it, we look up and there's Tom walking right towards us. It's just him, nobody with him. And he just looks at us. He's kind of staring at us.
But he didn't hear you guys.
No, he didn't hear us.
He had no idea.
What we don't know that. At that point, I'm just kind of like,
Yeah,
did he hear us talking? And he just kind of looks at us. He's like, what's up, guys? And just keeps walking. And we all like, what's up? Oh, yeah, okay, back to it.
Yeah.
Now, when they beat him, we're going to show him this video. So that was probably the most embarrassing moment that I've had.
I think I have one on the top of my head, and this is such a me story too. So Tyron Billy Johnson, he was on the practice squad last couple of years. He's a New Orleans native, and he went to Warren Easton High School. And if you know me, I'm always on top of the high schools where these guys are from. And I did a lot of work at Warren Easton back in my days working in college football recruiting, so I know a lot of his former coaches and things of that nature. There was the first day that he was in the locker room, and I was going up to like introduce myself and kind of make the connection that I'd been to his high school many times, but it just slipped my brain, and I was like, so you went to Edna Carr, right? Which is like their direct rival. And when I say rival, these two high schools hate each other. And he was like, nah, I went to Easton. And I was like, oh, that's what I meant. And it was just a horrible first interaction. It was awkward. He never made eye contact with me, and I just never talked to Tyron Billy Johnson ever again. So that was a tough one. That was a tough one because I really had an opportunity there, and I just swung and missed. Yeah, that was embarrassing.
Well, everybody knows
That is embarrassing.
My story, we were talking about the Parcells deal. Like in the locker room.
Embarrassing for whom?
Like I was embarrassed for him.
Right.
I was embarrassed, it's like, and my man got totally nude in front of me, and he did it on purpose.
That doesn't sound good.
And I'm like going, and I'm like, is this really happening? And I just couldn't even make eye contact, couldn't anything. And then my man gave it the Captain Morgan pose and all that, and I walked out, I was embarrassed.
Just to clarify, Brian, because the picture you're painting is, I think, a little different than the story. He was talking to you about football. He had just gotten out of the shower.
No, he started taking his clothes off in front of me.
I thought he was coming from the shower.
He was it's like blue sweat top, pants, grays. And I'm like, he's not doing this, is he?
But y'all were talking football. It wasn't he was like, check out these abs. It wasn't like that, right?
He was talking foot, and then it got to the point where I'm like, whoa, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, you can't just sit there and tell me what you know. And now I'm like, it's like, sometimes old men, when they go if you're ever in a gym, old men walk around with nothing on all the time, and you're like, why? Why? There's always walking around with nothing on, and I was just sitting there like, I was like going, you're really not doing this to me, are you, Coach?
You were his favorite scout, Brian.
Evidently not. He moved on from me after that.
You didn't appreciate it.
I was embarrassed. He wasn't embarrassed. I was embarrassed because I'm like, what's he doing?
Wow.
I guess mine is not as funny. I guess the most recent one was at training camp when I was interviewing Zeke, and mid-interview, or like right off the bat, we started rolling, and I was like, oh yeah, the fans are really happy to have you back. I'm a huge fan, happy to have you back. So I know it sounds dumb, but in the moment I was like, oh God, why did I say that out loud? Eat me earth. I'm like, just swallow me earth. Open up and swallow me there, because it's just one of those things that you don't, it's not really professional or anything. He was fine, whatever, but it was one of those that I just
do it in his
absolutely
laughs?
hated.
They give that.
No, he just like,
he does have that like weird like side laugh.
That laugh, you're kind of like,
it's that nervous laugh.
Nervous laugh, yeah.
All right, let's turn this up a notch.
Uh-oh.
Who
was
on
already
the
tough.
I just told a Bill Parcells nude story. What else you want?
That's why I said, uh-oh.
No, this is not too bad.
Shannon Sharp story.
Who on the podcast across the board, so out of all the podcasts that we produce on DallasCowboys.com,
we're putting out more.
would you least want to be stuck on an island with?
Mickey.
That's mean.
that one's easy for you.
Mickey and I respect the heck out of Mickey, but Mickey and I would kill each other. We would absolutely.
That's facts.
He would start saying something. I would say something, and then he would jump up and hit me right in the face with his fist.
Jump up. Did you catch that? He would jump up.
He would
hit
jump
me in
up
my face.
and hit me
That was
right.
mean.
I'm just Mickey
Back away to gain some speed and take off.
he would launch that little Italian fist right in my face. But
he'd outlive us all.
If it,
He would.
If it was me and Mickey on a desert island, we'd both die.
I think he would be very resourceful though.
Yeah. Is that what you said? The question? Did I answer it right?
Yes, you did.
All right. I would
you
drink
did.
anyway just because I'm kind of thirsty right now.
I'm going to drink one. I'm not going to answer this question, but I will say who I would most want to be, and it's Isaiah Stanback. That man climbed a mountain in Africa
no doubt
this
about that.
season.
No doubt about
I know
that.
he's built for it, so I want
He's
to
gonna
be with
survive.
Isaiah.
He's gonna survive.
Absolutely.
Is this a survival thing? Is this a survival thing or somebody you just don't want to be with?
You don't want to be with.
Okay. You're talking about survival stuff.
He just drank because he doesn't want to say.
Oh.
He doesn't want to give an answer.
In my
keep the
role,
peace,
I
keep the
can't.
peace.
In my role, I
You know
cannot
what, you
answer
can
this
say-
question.
you can
That
say
wouldn't
me,
be-
it's
that wouldn't be
okay.
right.
It's not you at all.
No, I cannot answer this question. I have to lay out on this
So
one.
drink.
So cheers.
Hydrate.
Did Heidi
Hydrate.
buzz down and say, don't answer that question, Derek?
He chose to hydrate.
Okay.
Okay, hydrate.
I was
Presented
thirsty
by
anyway.
Yeti.
Good.
Okay. Who has?
Did you answer?
Oh no, I did not.
Oh, yeah.
answer.
Look at you. I'm trying to get away from this one.
Right.
Who would? Hold on. I came up with the question and I did not think of my answer. Who would I? I think.
Beam counts.
This is
Beam counts.
Beam counts,
really?
You know what? Since he's probably listening in the back, Josh.
Oh man, I would want a camera crew on y'all too.
Josh.
That would definitely.
He's always
be...
just pushing my buttons. So I think we would just fight each other.
All right.
He would be on one end of the island and I'll be on the other.
Yeah, you stay on your half. I stay on my half.
Draw a line in the
Josh is out to lunch. Sorry.
Okay, who has been the most difficult player to work with?
Emmitt Smith.
Okay.
Emmitt Smith was. I think Emmitt Smith to me is it's funny because his daughter was my son's cheer buddy, and I tried to get to really kind of know him, the family at Green Hill. He just never very friendly to me for some, and even when I was in player personnel, and I would say it, he just never, he comes off as this really, really nice guy, but to me, he's really not very nice. So I guess I'm being honest here that I tried to be friendly and it didn't work out for me. So I kind of now keep my distance. He was a tough one to work with, though. He really was.
I'm going to give kind of a funny answer here because we just had a moment this past off season where, he kind of ticked me off a little bit, but we've talked about it and we're cool now. So there was a moment in the off season. CeeDee Lamb had a camp going on down in Round Rock. It was a youth camp, and he had tweeted out the day before, like, "Hey, I'm not talking about any contract stuff, so don't come with contract questions." And I was thinking in the back of my brain, I was like, "There's a lot more to talk about than just contract stuff. Like, I'll go talk about his off-season regimen, what he's been up to, where has he been for the last 6 months." I was like, "Well, okay, I'll drive down and get this story." Talked to some people, had an understanding that I would go down and get an interview. And when I got down there, he declined the interview, and I was like, "Really? Like, I drove down here from Dallas," and he's like, "No,
Yeah, come on, man, you know
yeah,
me."
He like didn't even make eye contact with me. He's like, "No, I'm not doing it." I was like, "Okay." And so like literally last week in the locker room, I was like, "You owe me one, right?" He was like, "Yeah, my bad. They told me not to talk to me." I was like, "Yeah, they told you." I was like, "But you owe me one." So, but yeah, that's that was probably my most frustrating moment probably since I've been around the beat.
Yeah. I can't really answer that from the standpoint of just individual. I will answer from the standpoint of our group. I would say probably
That
there's been a
long
few.
snapper.
Well, yeah, there was some, yeah. But I was gonna say Roy Williams is safety, and it's actually really cool now. But Nick will need to tell you the story because he did not like our team. He didn't like what we did from the standpoint of stuff we wrote and stuff like that. And I know he and Nick had some moments, and they've since had a good conversation and kind of cleared there. And he actually even did a documentary with us.
Did.
So it kind of worked out on the other end. But Roy didn't like our group for whatever reason. He did not like what we did, and that made it very difficult because he was one of the key players on the team at that time. So when you got a key player that doesn't really want to do stuff with you, doesn't want to kind of engage with you in that way, it makes it really, really tough.
Jay Ratliff was hard too.
Yeah,
I'm talking about all these older players. Like when I first started with you guys with .com and stuff. And you're right, there are a lot of these players that felt like that because and the way this is set up, that Derek and the Jones family have it set up is, we report, we say what we say. We do what we see, and we interact that way. And a lot of these players are like, wait a minute, we're all supposed to be on the same team here, and a lot of times you are, but there's a lot of times you have to be critical. Players don't get that.
Yeah, and
they just do not, and it's tough because we live with them every day.
Yeah.
And when you get on a plane or something like that, they look at you like, oh, here's the guy that's supposed to be on our team, and he's not on our team.
Yeah.
That part of it was difficult.
Yeah, it makes it tough. And so there have been times when players just are like,
but it's the best.
It's
the best site in professional sports because of the being able to be objective about how the team's covered.
And I get it. I think the way they look at it is it's kind of like you're two-faced. Like you're on the team, but then you're being critical. And what I've always, whenever I've had those conversations, what I've always told them is, man, if we're ever wrong, let me know. We will retract if we're wrong.
Right.
But otherwise, it's our job to give an honest assessment of what we see. And I know,
Look
sometimes
at the film. Look at the film.
we have to. And by the way, that puts
Jalen Smith quote.
puts a lot of pressure on us because we have to make sure we're right all the time.
Right.
But
Jason Witten MF'd me one day for being wrong. And Jason, I was on the staff that brought him here, drafted him. He came up to me and goes, when the F am I run the wrong route? And I'm like, well, listen, I was saying, he goes, what do you know? And it got where he drugged me out of the locker room. And I'm like, okay, let's go.
He pulled you by your collar. And
yeah, well, he goes, come on, let's go. Arm around like my neck, kind of like, let's go. Let's go. And I walked out thinking, he's going to beat my ass outside of this locker room, and he didn't.
Kind of want to see that.
Yeah. I've been like showing up with blood just pouring.
What happened, Brian?
Yeah, but it's in a way, it's exciting to be a part of all this, and in a way, you're just kind of, but it's the best way. It's honestly the best. Jason Garrett wanted nothing to do with me. No, nothing. Every time he saw me, hate smile. Like just how being honest. So you got to roll with it.
Yeah,
got to roll with it.
Okay.
These things are too honest. These questions are too honest.
I'm like, I'm gonna skip mine, so we can get to the next question.
We only have a couple more minutes here.
Well, you gave a really long answer.
I was talking too long too.
Brian's just taking drinks,
sipping water.
Answer question and take a drink.
Okay. Okay. What has been the most creative excuse you've used to get out of something or get away with something at work?
Huh.
We know we've all kind of. Don't shake your head, Derek, because I know you've.
This is just you, Ambar. This is just you that does this.
Yeah. This is everybody.
You should start
everybody
because you didn't answer the
too.
last one. You should start because
you go first.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think.
The most
make sure I get to take some notes for your review.
Yeah, she's gonna drink.
The most creative way to get out of work. Derek used to always text us and say, hey, if it's icy out there, you don't have to come into work. And the weather report never called for ice. So I thought that was pretty creative a lot of the time.
No, you know me.
Like, the weather looks a little iffy. And I'd be sitting at my desk.
Ice on the road or a chance of ice on the road, I
think there were some days where Derek
don't
said,
take any chances.
Derek would say, I don't feel like working today. and he would call in the weather report. And then, I drive in. I'm like, man, it's not bad.
No, what Brian calls are feats of strength.
There he goes.
So what Brian does is Brian looks for moments to put his life in danger, and he's like, I'm about to conquer this. And so he looks for ice, and he's like, I can drive through this ice. He looks for bad situations, and I will go through this just because I want to prove I can go through this.
Yeah.
And I'm
like the stubbornness.
And I'm on the other side. I'm like, if it's ice, I'm like, here's what I don't want. And I don't want this to sound too morbid. What I don't want is a whole bunch of people who report to me out on the ice. Somebody has an accident, and I get a phone call that someone's been injured or worse. And now I have to live with the fact that I didn't tell
call
them.
it off.
to just don't cut.
See,
like
this
I
is
just
why-
can't live with that. I don't want to have to deal with that.
That's why he's a good boss.
Yeah.
Me,
I don't want to have to deal
That's
with that.
me. We're all here. We're all.
Brian's
we're all
whatever
fixing-
happens. That's fate.
If you can't make it, Darwinism.
Doors
Not
that-
everyone drives a
Survival of
truck,
the
Brian.
Not everybody has the NASCAR driving skill that I have.
I'm drinking.
Oh, you're drinking?
I'm drinking here.
I saw you pondering, like, very serious. I think you came up with something in your head. Like,
And
you're
he's like, I
yeah,
can't
I'm
take
not,
that
I'm
to
not
the
gonna
air.
I
share
really
that
can't.
one.
I really just can't think. That's really.
Have you ever been so hungover you didn't show up?
Well, I don't drink, so that's a little
Oh,
bit
that's
different.
right. You don't.
Yeah,
That's right.
but
That's right. You don't.
I've had some late nights.
Look, working here, there's going to be some times when you're going to have.
I remember some
like,
holiday parties.
Just holiday parties,
Yeah.
or we go to Nobu every
Yeah,
year.
Nobu.
There are going to be some days where you got to come in the next day and be ready
Hey,
to go.
let me tell you what and this is, I hope I don't get in trouble for this story, but when you
That's
when-
always a
when
good.
we preface
we go to the combine, and the one thing the Joneses are really good at is they have a good time. They have a good time. But you know what? When the time of day starts at 8 a.m., they could
They
be
don't
out.
miss.
They
They
could
don't
be
miss
out
meetings.
till
Yeah.
they could be out till 7:55
I
a.m.
don't know how they do it.
At
going
8
straight to
a.m.
that
At
meeting.
8 a.m. They're standing there. They're sitting there with ball caps on and like watching guys run 40s.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, how do they do that?
Yep.
How do they do this? But I say this in admiration.
Yeah.
I don't say it in like, whoa. I say it in how you're able to say, I feel like absolute garbage, but I'm going to work. And they do that. I've
And
seen
they
it a
show
lot.
up
The
and they're
point
on
is they
time
work
and they
ethic.
do
They
their
show
job.
up and they don't bag out and all that. I mean, I say it in admiration.
No,
I
we've
really-
we've had some times when we've gone out like as a group
Yeah.
to we had meetings and then we'd go out to dinner.
Yeah.
And I'd be like feeling it, and literally the next morning when it was time to get up and we had
Yeah.
meetings, they were the first ones right there ready to go. And it was not an excuse that we had a late night. That does not matter. You're going to be there.
You need to show up. If they're going to show up, you show up.
No doubt.
That's how I always felt.
I'll
I'm
tell
like,
you this.
man, I cannot wave this one off.
Yeah.
I've got to go.
Whenever we have assistant coach availability, it's great because you don't get to talk to these guys very often, but it's kind of a drag because there's 15 of them and they're all coming like at 3 at a time, and it's a lot going on. The last 2 times that we have had assistant coach availability, it has been the morning after an event that we've done. So 2 times ago, it was the retreat that we had, our little department retreat, and we got back, early that morning, and then we walk right over to practice to do the assistant coach availability, and everyone's just like, kind of all disoriented. And then this last time, it was the night after Nobu at training camp, and so it feels like the assistants know whenever we're
They're great events,
yeah,
by the way.
yeah, they know
They're
when
all
we're having
great,
a
they're all
tough
great
event.
events.
All right, well, we're super late on the
Yeah, we
break,
are.
but
All right, we're gonna-
go ahead there.
We're going to go ahead and go to our final break. When we come back, we got to get some picks. So we got to figure out what these guys are thinking is going to happen this weekend. Cowboys versus Saints. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
From the field to the festivities, Lucchese embodies the essence of luxury and tradition. Handcrafted with meticulous precision, each pair offers unmatched comfort and style. Stand tall while you're tailgating or cheering in the stands with the Dallas Cowboys collection by Lucchese. Shop the collection today at the Lucchese store at the Star in Frisco or online at lucchese.com. Lucchese, the official boot of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to the break.
AT&T connecting changes everything.
Welcome back. Final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, presented by LG, the #1 OLED TV brand for 11 years and counting. See why at lg.com/OLED Evo. All right. Let's get into our picks. We got about 5 minutes here left on the show. I want to know who you think's going to win, and then I would like to know your final score. Let's start with you, Brian.
Dallas 26, Saints 13. Again, I think I did this last week. I think it went 23-13. But I'm going to go Cowboys 26, Saints 13. I think Cowboys will play some good defense in this game. I think that the Saints were going to try and probably nickel and dime you to death. They're probably going to try and give you a lot of eye candy. It's going to be about stopping Alvin Kamara. Chris Olave, we'll see how he plays in this game. Foster Moreau's, the tight end's a little banged up. They're throwing the ball to the tight end. It's got to cover him a little bit. Their offensive line might be another one of those messes when we get to this thing. I think Dallas at home, the offense seems to click. I bet you they get the running game going against this bunch. So Dallas 26, Saints 13.
Yeah, I see a similar structure here between the Browns last week and the Saints this week. The only difference being that there's a lot more coming out of the backfield for the Saints. So I'm going to give the Saints a little bit more offensive credit than I gave the Browns last week. But I still have the Cowboys 27-21. I think the defense gets after it, like you said, especially if the left side of that offensive line is out. But on offense, I'm definitely looking at that CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott connection.
There you go.
They only connected on 50% of targets last week. That was their second lowest in the last 2 years. So want to see a little bit more connection there, a little bit more chemistry there. If those two guys can get on the same page, this offense can take off on this defense.
I have a similar score, 27-23. Cowboys win. I think that after last week, they're going to come back here at home and just have the good vibes for it. I think the defense is just going to do the same thing. Right off the bat, come out strong and go put pressure all throughout the game. I do see the running game kind of being a lot better this week than last week, so I do see that happening as well. And with the passing game, I mean, I'm expecting them with a score like that it's not just Brendan Aubrey kicking field goals, that it's actually the offense scoring points and getting into the end zone.
I'm interested to see this week what we knew about, or what we thought we knew about Cleveland going into that game was that they had a really good rushing attack from the previous year. Mm-hmm. They really didn't do much on the ground against the Cowboys. And I'm interested to see, was that a function of the game, or was that a function of this defense really being fit, Zimmer fixing the run defense for the Cowboys? We're about to find out in this game, because they got two formidable running backs that they will be facing this week. And I want to see if the Cowboys defense can be just as good against the run as I think they were last week. And so I do think that'll happen. I think the Cowboys will run away with this one. I think they win 31-17. I don't think it'll really be a particularly close game, but I think the Cowboys will win big.
Nothing better than a noon home game.
Ooh.
Yeah, let me tell you, you're out of there by, 6:30. Yeah. You get to go home at a good time, in bed by a decent time.
You can actually get to watch the Sunday night game.
Yeah. Great vibes.
Yeah,
great
absolutely.
Vibes.
Real quick before we end the show, I did want to ask this question. Everybody picked the Cowboys.
I'd still make
Everybody picked the Cowboys.
I really do.
If the Cowboys don't win this week, what will be the reason why? Nick, let's start with you.
I would say offensive consistency. I think we saw that problem kind of rear its head in the second half last week. And I think if we call back to last season, yes, it was the first year under Mike McCarthy. Yes, there were some things they were still trying to work out. Terrence Steele was getting back on the field for the first time since his injury, Tony Pollard as well. But there was a lot of offensive inconsistency we saw in the first 6 weeks last season. Was that a product of not playing in the preseason as well? That's a question you might ask. And then they come out last week in the first half, barrage. You know, it looked like they were just picking up right where they left off. And in the second half, hard stop. 0 for 5 on third down. I believe Dak ended up with only 23 yards in the second half, 4 of 12 passing. Those numbers are rough, but it was around those numbers. If that carries into the first half against New Orleans, then I'm officially looking at this early season problem that they've had over the course of the last couple of years and being able to just find consistency on the offensive side of the ball. And I think whenever you look at the problems that this offense is facing in a vacuum in 2024, it's CeeDee Lamb getting back into a rhythm. It's trying to figure out this running game with Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle. What does that distribution look like? And in this case, in this specific game, Jake Ferguson, if he cannot play, how do they factor that in and how do they make up for that? Just a couple of things. I think if offensively they cannot find consistent rhythm, then I think New Orleans can beat them in this game.
If it turns into an Arizona game last year, where all of a sudden Arizona was making a huge plays, running plays, pass plays, and Dallas really didn't have an answer for that. There some big plays that were given up in that game and that won it for Arizona. And if Dallas gives up a bunch of big plays, allows Carr to feel comfortable, Olave has some catches, all of a sudden that running back looks like the all-pro he can be, then this could be a repeat of Arizona because they're capable of making some big plays in the running game and also throwing the football.
I would say if they were to lose this game, I could see it because of lack of creativity on the offensive side of the ball, but also penalties, like creating some penalties that just put you in a really bad position at really bad time. So that would be my answer.
All right. If I could, two streaks to keep an eye on when it comes to this game specifically. Yes, the Cowboys did lose at home to the Packers in the playoffs, but if we're talking about regular season home winning streaks, the Cowboys have won 16 in a row. That is only 2 off of the franchise record. So if they're able to get a win this week and against the Ravens next week, then we're officially starting to talk about franchise record-setting numbers. But they are tied with the New England Patriots for 12th all time, as well as the Pottsville Maroons.
The Maroons were good. I was so in programs.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Bulldog Turner, good center for them.
The other streak to keep an eye on, 23 straight times the Dallas Cowboys have lost whenever they have scored less than 20 points. The last time that they did win was against the Saints, 13-10, that Thursday night game back in 2018.
Jordan Lewis game.
Yep, Jordan Lewis game. Jalen Smith had a big game in that one as well, but that was the last time that the Cowboys scored less than 20 and won a game.
All right, we appreciate you guys joining us. I will say real quick, there are two players for the Saints I think you got to keep an eye on. Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough
and then
one.
Chris Olave.
Right.
Both those two guys for different reasons, but I think they're big play type receivers. Yeah. And if the Cowboys do lose this game, we will look up and those two guys will have made some big plays because I think right now what we don't know is Kalen Carson looked pretty good last week. I think this is a different type of challenge this week. So we're going to get a chance to see him against some speed guys, some guys that can get downfield real quick, and we'll find out how well he plays in those situations. All right, we'll be back on Monday. We'll tell you what went right and wrong for the Cowboys. Till then, for Nick Harris, Brian Broaddus, and Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!